joinit.online.
Stop swearing on him. He's already recording, right? I mean,
Yeah, sorry guys for being very, very late, but
Like always.
fuck this shit, right?
Yeah. We
work
don't
never
take it anymore.
sleeps.
Yeah, work never sleeps.
Depends.
When you
Sometimes.
turn off
Yes.
your phone and close your laptop, I mean, the works sleep well.
No. Everything catches up once you wake up and
Especially-
inevitably go back to work. Yeah, everything catches up.
Yes. So it's nice to see you guys again. I haven't seen you in, I don't know, 1 week or so. Yeah, thanks for the invite. I
What
don't know if
invite?
you.
We just wanted to record and you were suddenly here, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you got here. I didn't send
Some
you a link.
unplanned.
It's so annoying. You're always trying to get in, and
To
you
join
just
into the
made it
podcast,
today.
yeah.
The problem is that you have to change now the link because I have it, so I can join each time and then yeah.
We changed it twice already, and you are still here, right?
Still
Yeah, I
here.
mean, this is the power. This is the power of a dark net or dark web. Where you can find these links.
Yes.
Okay, speaking about the dark web, I mean, I got a question for you guys. I mean, you're working for the huge companies. Sorry, Johnner. But anyway, still, there is the IT, and there's a lot of packets going through the networks, and a lot of customers being served by the infrastructure you got. What are you doing against the ransomware? Because I thought that the ransomware is gone. I mean, it was the wave 4 or 5 years ago. Like everybody was like somehow hit by that, and I thought, yeah, it's gone. It's IT companies got solution for it. There's the decryptors, and you have the snapshots and blah blah blah. You have plenty. No, it's not. I mean, it's just it's so going on. I mean, I just heard last week about 2 major companies. One of it, military, which is very sensitive, of course, were hacked, and they're trying to be blackmailed and blah 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 because of the ransomware. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not gone. It's probably just probably better and more high use or whatever. Nobody's spreading these information. Yeah, we've been hacked, but it's still there. Have you heard about anything like that in last weeks or months or whatever?
Yeah.
Only you.
When you
please
check Bleeping Computer, for example, which is a pretty good website,
Yeah.
there is a lot of ransomware still ongoing. It's just not getting the traction, right? Because it's old news, right? There is always some big company, someone that gets it. And of course, I can say that we are completely protected against ransomware, and we are not afraid about anything.
Yeah.
That's the PR answer, right?
Yes, the official answer. Yeah. I always hear constantly about it because I listen to some podcasts, and yeah, they give like let's say always the updates like regarding some of these attacks or data leaks or hacks or whatever. And yeah, I hear it constantly. Yeah? I think it never goes away. Maybe let's say it's not such a high number anymore, but it still happens, and most of the companies hid it. So try to hide it at least, and then if some regulation body catches up with them, then of course they have to disclose it and pay some fine and la la la. But most of the time they try to hide it because it's actually cheaper to hide it on the, let's say, image side, and also on the security side.
So, there is a reputation issue, of
and
course.
Everything. Yeah.
But I think the company pays. Maybe the 4 whatever years ago, there was like, no, we are not dealing with terrorists, whatever hackers. We are not paying you. Whatever. We will rather burn this company, but we are not spending a penny. Yeah.
I
You know
also
what the
believe
problem is with
a
it?
lot of them pay. Yeah, sorry.
Once you pay, right, they send you a tool which will decrypt the stuff that you have encrypted, right? Do
Yeah.
you really trust them to run to run their tool, right? That's the first part. But there are also I think one major antivirus company was creating a tool which could decrypt. That means that the hackers, the ransomware criminals could send you just the key. You would essentially have a good tool that could decrypt the data from that antivirus company, and you would just insert the key and it would go over and be decrypted. Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with that is like you said, do you trust them to really not give you with that tool any some like any other kind of, let's say, Trojan or virus or whatever? And then the second option is once you got hacked, there is a huge chance or high chance to get hacked again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
usually,
Yeah.
yeah, the paying of the ransom is of course just a fast and easy way to get your data back. But that's
Yeah.
not going to solve your issue, right? So this is one of the big problems, right? So we also have, so in my case, right, for the place I work, we have dedicated security teams and everything, and yeah, they try to enforce requirements and regulations, and each let's say project needs to be approved and uh, has to meet some sort of requirements in order to
Sure.
go in production and the whole shebang, right? But of course, it's not always so easy, and because you have such a huge infrastructure and with so many components, sometimes, of course, you're going to get affected. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure. I mean, this attack vector is actually probably the most burning place or most concern,
yeah,
biggest concern, right? What's the source?
That there is money behind it, right? Because those criminals can get the money, and money is a powerful motivator. And
yes,
Yeah, it is.
but I wanted to say I worked in one company that got ransomware, and they didn't pay, right, because the data that was encrypted was not yeah, it wasn't important or anything.
Mhm.
The backups didn't go far enough that they could restore the data, but it was
Mhm.
not important. But the major problem was, right, because I was then asked, okay, is there some how do we prevent, how do we figure out if there is some ATP, the advanced how is it called, threat,
you
if
mean it,
there is some resident issue there, right, that they put something inside the network that you don't know about, right, that they
some
have
backdoor,
still
some yeah,
control over, yeah.
Yep.
And how do you figure that out, right? And I was like, yeah, at that point it's easier than going through all the servers, right, on the network and looking for it, right, and never be actually 100% sure that you got everything right. Just reinstall it, right?
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Just start
That's
from scratch, right? And that's also where, because the the task itself of reinstalling that part of the environment, right, it was kind of isolated, so it was pretty fine. But the task of reinstalling it, that actually cost more than if you would actually pay, right, the ransomware, because the ransomware was, I don't know how much money, I don't know exactly, right, and but I know how much money it cost to reinstall those servers, right,
mm,
how much
yeah.
manpower was spent and stuff like that. I've seen the numbers, right, and it's a huge number, right. Yeah,
yeah,
Not
but
for me,
it's
man.
difficult, yeah.
I My ransom was 1 Bitcoin, and it was when the Bitcoin was 3,000 euros or so. Super
okay.
cheap.
Yeah. You got away cheap,
Yeah.
right, but you didn't
I
pay.
didn't.
Yeah.
No,
So
it was too much.
I didn't have this issue, But yeah, I also heard from other places, from other guys saying like, yeah, the only way to be sure that it's clean, you have to reinstall from scratch and that's it. So, and this hurts so bad, right? When you have some sort of environment which is built, configured, you don't have any automation in place, right? You did it by hand or whatever, and then you configured all these tools and software and shit. And at the end of the day, like after you have it in place and running everything, you have some guy telling you have to reinstall everything from scratch. I'm
Well,
sure
then
some, I'm
you have two
sure,
options.
I'm sure a
Either it
lot
will
of
stay
guys
crypted.
wept. So yeah, sorry, yeah, please go.
Yeah, I mean, it will just stay crypted, or you have to reinstall it. So pretty much,
Yeah,
it happens. Yeah.
I would
Uh,
I would reinstall it for sure,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
but I'm sure it would be a pain experience, right? Even if you have automation in place after changes and everything, so it's not going to work. For sure, it's not going to work anymore. You have to then update your automation in order to make it work. You invest much more time than just installing, right? So and then you're going to find like another items of technical debt which are going to force you to fix some of them, and then you're going to spend forever until you end up into the nice place again. And yeah,
That there
uh,
was actually a genius idea that some of the I think like 10 servers maybe were running some old Red Hat, right, or something like that, and they were like, okay, if we are doing it right now, let's upgrade it, right? Oh my god,
That's the best. Yeah.
that was such a mistake, right? And I didn't know about it anything, right? And I'm just
oh
like I see the Jira tickets going, right? And a few of them are still there, right? And I'm asking like, what's wrong with those servers, right? It shouldn't be that hard. Yeah, we wanted to upgrade it, but now we figured out that the database doesn't run on those servers, and yeah,
yeah,
it's difficult because you can't even. At least there we couldn't even use it, right, to get the environment to a better level, right, because you want to bring it up as soon as
yeah,
possible, so you are copying all the configuration
yes,
files, everything wrong, right, after years or years of
yeah.
those systems running. Yeah.
This is exactly the problem, right? Like I have seen it time and time, and like again and again. People have the impression that once you do some automation with Ansible or whatever, it's like, it's one-time job. It's going to work forever. Okay, I don't have to care about it anymore. No, no. You do it now, it will work for, I don't know, 4 months or until the next release maybe, or till the next package comes. And then you have to make sure that you always run it and test it in order to make sure that it's still running, right? Because yeah, like this case, you're going to be dead in the water. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Right now, what we are doing, for example, is we are running the Ansible automation on all the servers every night, right? And that essentially, but there is still, until people can connect to the server, right? And do some hand configuration and fix something that's not inside Git, inside the Ansible repo, right? You're gonna have issues, right? You're gonna have
Yes.
issues not anyway, right? But I think it will be less issues. But
Well,
Yeah, go please.
yeah. I mean, I saw it so many times actually that it's so cool running the automation whole pipeline from testing to delivering to deployment, whatever. But the problem with it is that a small glitch, right? Small, like not following the procedure completely, right? Doing the small manual change there and there, like can break you whole automation. Whole pipeline is like not usable anymore at all, right? You really have to commit any change, any small change, any dot have to be committed in a code or whatever that the pipeline can run it. I can see it actually myself. It took me quite a lot of time. I was building the templates through the Packer, through the Bitbucket CI to the Bamboo, blah blah blah, right? Deploying them to vSphere, but I was testing them without all these pipelines, right? I did it like it over the Packer and stuff like. And sometimes I was like lost. What's the automation? pipeline code and what's my code, right? Man, it took me quite a long time to distinguish this really correctly. Yeah, well, lessons learned actually, right? Once you get a once you got a pipeline, use it anytime.
I also
So
learned
many
something.
lessons learned through the years,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I learned something last year or last 2 years actually, after starting to do Kubernetes and
yeah,
having the DevOps role.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the word automation is used kind of incorrectly. Yeah. Why am I saying this? What you do with, let's say, scripts or with Ansible on a server level, right? That's not really automation in my mind, right? Because that's somehow like infrastructure as code, let's say, okay? Because automation, like we imagine it, like really like deploying a server, configure it from scratch with all the tools and all the software, and do it forever and ever until the end of time. That's something which you can really do to the real extent in something like Kubernetes with manifest files, with Helms, with everything. That will really build from the image level, that will deploy the pods as you want them, that it will configure the network, like you can run it 1000 times and it will be okay if your cluster is okay. But what you do with Ansible, it's a bit different, okay? It's not automation to the like true extent of the mean, right? In my opinion, right? Of course you install packages and you configure stuff and everything, but you're always like at the mercy of either the distribution which you have, which you use, like I don't know, Red Hat, Debian, whatever, right? And second, at the mercy of the server. If someone somehow did something manually and you don't know it, and then
yeah, yeah.
maybe
That's
you
a
could,
good.
yeah,
That's a very good point. Actually, I heard about some companies that they were considering the. I mean, they were monitoring the logins through. I mean, interactive logins through SSH or whatever daemon they're running, and they're considering them as a dirty uh, since someone logged in, and they
yes,
were marked as to be rebuilt. Right? I mean, once you can fix them, I mean, okay, there is emergency problem. I'm gonna fix this, right, manually. So making going to the servers interactively and doing some change. Okay, it's fixed for now, but the system is marked to be rebuilt, and that's so cool, right? Because any part of the system which is running and delivering some service was kept by automation. Anything, right? And that was so cool. I mean, this approach was very it's hard. I think that especially developing and testing, it's very hard. But man, this is a relief. That's so cool, right?
Yeah, that's. I think the major cloud providers have it like that. Their
Yeah,
infrastructure. I think AWS, at least part of it, is handled like that.
yeah, yeah. It was something. Yeah,
Uh, you still have those externalities, right? Which you don't if you use Kubernetes. You still depend on the packages
vendors. Yeah,
from the vendor, right? You
yeah,
still to some extent depend on the I don't know. For example, you upgrade the server, right? And might be that something changed, right? Something
yeah. But
unexpected.
I
Some
mean,
package got yeah
this is just a matter of testing, right? That's why you have the cloud images, right?
yeah.
I mean, they are, and I think this is the point where I read about the nice topic about. I mean, the slowly operating systems and Linux, especially, but I mean it's Windows, are shifting towards this state. They don't like to offer like RPMs and the repositories. You can fetch any software and configure as you want because
Mhm.
it's just raising the complexity of the problems you have to solve. Of course, there is a zillions. It's geometrically growing the the combinations of problems you can face. So
Right.
they're going to RPM OS trees, they're going to the pods, they're going to the cloud images when they're like pretty much static. Yeah. And this is even, I mean, I like this approach. So go with the development, go with a system you can like modify on your own as you want. But if you want to go with production, here is a well-defined, well-tested, well-quality assurance system, right? So, and yeah, use it. This is tested. I mean, this is the way the vendors are going, in my opinion. So, because I see the same. If you have a multiple versions and you want to, like Wally said, you have an Ansible playbook. You have two options. If you either it will be simple, but you have to do it specifically for your statical deployment, or it will be super complex because you have to check everything in an Ansible code. Well, test everything. Is this condition as I wanted? Is this condition as I wanted? And I think it's just way better to have a well-defined deployment environment and use the simple Ansible, for example.
Yeah, definitely right. But what Valentin was saying, that in Kubernetes, right? You pretty much have the environment defined in those in those YAML files, right? So, but still, right? If I know, for example, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I've heard that one company wanted to move from AWS to Google Cloud. And I think they were running everything on Kubernetes and stuff like that. And I think it was a fairly painful
task.
It was pretty painful. So even if you apparently, right, even if you have those YAML files and automation on one environment, it's not like, yeah, we can now go to Google Cloud because it's a little bit cheaper. It's still sticky. Yeah,
it's still sticky. And yeah, if you want to migrate, let's say from EKS, AKS to Azure KS, right, to Azure Kubernetes or to Google Cloud, right? So Google Cloud is the shittiest of the clouds, let's say, for now. So this is the
Hey,
reality.
finally we've got some spice here. Let's.
It really is like on term of the, let's say, options which you can have on terms of the features, even in terms of pricing. Yeah. So it's really the, let's say,
pricing,
the last.
really.
Yeah. Microsoft, for example, discounts heavily if you have some enterprise agreements with them, and Amazon does it the same. Yeah. So Google is the last one, let's say, on the block, and yeah, they're not really competitive. They really stay behind. Yeah. But
Okay,
yeah,
but I think the market shares confirms this, right? I mean, they have the lowest share for sure.
could be. Could be. So
Yeah.
so I haven't checked it from the market share point of view. I checked it from the, let's say, from the technical point of view, and yeah, it's not competitive as the others. But yeah, Kubernetes is really amazing from the point of view of doing automation, like I said, from scratch, real automation. But of course, it's a pain in the ass if you need it for small projects. If you have like one website or one small
It does
app,
make sense.
and you want to use a Kubernetes cluster just to maintain it and make sure that everything works, you're going to be dead, right? Like, it's not for everyone. But at the same time, yeah, not all clusters are the same, are equal, yeah, because yeah, let's say you have something running on VMware, you have this Tanzu stuff, you have running on Amazon. Yeah, you can't just go, oh yes, let's take my files from here and make it work on Amazon. No, that will not work, okay? Because you have versions, versions are really everything in Kubernetes. So if you use some specific version for some service or for some gateway or API or for whatever, depending on the versions, you're going to have features working or not. So yeah, you always have to version match or to see if you can go to the next version, if some stuff is deprecated or not, because there are so many changes in Kubernetes that like it's constantly changing. Like, and you have a lot of plugins which you can use. So it's crazy. Okay, so you have a huge selection of services which you can deploy. But yeah, you need to spend all your time into a code editor and look at the YAML files and really try to understand. And sometimes the errors which you get back, they're like crazy. You really can't understand them if you really haven't spent a lot of time. it's crazy hard. Yeah. But still, it's still amazing for automation in the real sense of automation, and not just okay, let's configure a service and that's it. Okay. Yeah. But this changed. Yeah, this changed for me because I was considering, let's say, Ansible and some other, let's say, services like SaltStack and everything, like real automation. Yeah. But in the end, they're really not. Yeah, they're like just part-time automation. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure whether I agree or not. I mean, definitely don't agree, but I'm just thinking into which extent, because it's just the way. What do you automate, right? I mean, it's so
Yeah.
cool because what I do, I'm fully automating part of not part, but I'm fully automating the deployment of virtual machines and the services on them. And I do it really like it should be completely unattended. Like you just click the button and just wait, and it's completely automated to the extent because it's well tested, right?
Mhm.
So, and we actually can do redeploy the actual state as well.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the Kubernetes got its own because it's sort of the abstraction layer. You don't
Yeah.
care
Sure.
about that much about infrastructure behind. Of course, you just mentioned it. Yeah, you have to. If you will like fulfill some requirements, I I would bet that it will work anywhere. Should, right?
Depends on the complexity of the cluster, right? And what kind of services you have, and
Yes, of
what.
course, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is the specification issue, right? If you will fulfill the specification, it should
Yeah. Sure.
run.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter where.
Yes. So
Uh,
yeah, if the specifications are in place, the features are there, like everything should be okay. Yeah.
mm,
And if the hardware matches, then yeah, so matches from the point of view of the resources. Yeah. But
yeah.
other than
Sure, of
this,
course. Yeah.
you
That's
don't
a
care
big.
about the
That's
CPU.
actually quite interesting issue, right? I mean, because it's hard to measure what the resources do. Because now in these days, like everything is oversubscribed and
Yes.
everything is abstracted somehow,
Yes.
and it might be very complex and complicated to get a good overview about the resources you really need. Not just space, but also the speed you require from for example, storage backends, specifically the IOs, the API throughputs and stuff like that,
Yes.
right? It's really hard to get a good estimation.
We did this. We had a large number of dashboards in Grafana for this,
Mhm,
and we were doing this kind of calculations to see how much we can oversubscribe, and yeah, how much are the clients actually using, and allowing
mhm,
them. So they were requesting the resources, they were committing, and after a commit, it was approved or not. And
mhm,
yeah, the build process took it from there and allowed them, of course, the new quota, yeah, for CPUs, memory, or whatever, right? But yeah, this process of monitoring all the time how much resources are actually used per work node, per or let's say per client, per application, right? It was
mhm,
different because you have names. So you have this namespace, right? You have a namespace for each client, uh, which is yeah, can be per project, let's say, or you can have even multiple projects in there, right? But the idea is that yeah, it was hard to keep a track, like a meaningful track of the resources and not get lost into it, because
mhm.
you have so many worker nodes, you have so much memory, you have so much oversubscripting, and yeah, sometimes you can't understand the numbers even if they're in front of you, because you don't know how much you oversubscribed or not. Like it's a bit not making sense after some point, after you have like 20 clients or 30 clients in there, and they are always having some sort of project in there. The numbers are so big and so like confusing, that sometimes it's not making sense.
Yeah,
And
I
we
fully
ended up
agree.
always changing the dashboards because oh wait, now it's not making sense because we overcommitted with 4 cores, and then we really give them two, but they see four, and yeah, So this kind of stuff always happened. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time in Grafana to come up with these huge dashboards to get a real state of the cluster. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because if you overcommit it too much, then some client will die. Yeah? Some application will be unable to start. Some pods are just not starting, and then you have the customers just asking why is not starting. I'm doing everything right. I have it like in place, but it's not running. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's for sure not black or white, right? This is totally true. Like, but yeah, I believe the word automation is a bit too easy, too easily used by people. Like with so I just have a script and this is automation, okay? Or I just have an Ansible playbook to install a package and this is automation. I don't believe it's really automation, right? It's maybe some part it's automated or a small part, but you still have a long way to go until you can really say it's automated. Yeah.
Yeah. Using Red Hat at company?
Uh, no, so I'm sure it's used. It's used, but in my case, no. Um, I don't even have that much touch with the VMs. Depends, yeah. Depends on the use case. Okay, so we can use something from Ubuntu, Microsoft. It depends on the on what kind of services you have, right?
I mean,
In,
I was just asking because if you are following this open source Red
yeah, I
Hat
know the
drama,
scandal. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
and
heard it yesterday, yeah. So I heard it. So to be honest, okay, just to take it like this, I heard so much. So over the years, I have been watching the let's say the Linux news forever, right? So
yeah,
since I can remember. To be honest, at the end of the day, Red Hat is a commercial company which is making money, which needs to make money, and from all the experiences which I have seen in the past, open source and free software, which is also open source most of the cases, let's say, it's not making money. Okay. And people have the tendency, nevertheless, to bitch about it and say that, this is not working, this is shit, this is whatever. But they still are not willing to pay anything for it at the end of the day, or or most of them not paying anything. But still, they have like always demands and they have like high expectations from it. And at the end of the day, I think Red Hat realized that they can't just give the stuff which they give commercially free. They just remove all the branding, and then some Joe guy comes and offers like commercial support to the company which installed
okay, okay,
CentOS on.
you can easily say Oracle.
Yeah, you
I
don't
mean,
have to
yeah.
to mention Joe, right?
So yeah, so it's Oracle, it's Joe, it's whoever company, right? So I think, to be honest, I think it's making sense. People don't like it. This is for sure the case. But Reddit is a huge open source contributor. I think it has the largest numbers of projects which they are participating in. And I think you have to realize that at the end of the day, people need to make money, especially companies.
Yeah.
So this is just my opinion. Yeah?
I mean, you know what I was that reminds me something. When I was years ago, there was a guy. And we were thinking about exactly going with some kind of it was the Puppet. Everybody knows Puppet, right? And it was like he was sort of a Puppet user, but also partially developer. And we were discussing this. Yeah, man. Uh, what will be the next steps? Are we gonna use Puppet for sure or not? And we said, like, company decided no, we want like something we you can sign the SLA for it. We do, so it was a pretty much closed product, which do the same dashboards, automation, orchestration, blah blah blah, right? And we were like, man, that's a bad, right? I mean, for this such amount of money, we could like really like hire some developers which would develop it and then send it to the upstream, and we would be using the project which will be just best, sorry, not best but the better, right? Because we would like pay the developers, we don't care that it's not gonna be just for us, it's gonna be upstream. But I mean, this community approach, right? And I was thinking, what about what the Apache? Apache is the foundation, I think. And if the Red Hat is big, I think the Apache is also big. They have quite a lot of softwares, open source softwares, but this is just the foundation. And I think they have these customers, but they're not customers. They're like really voluntarily paying to their foundation, because they understand that by making donations, they're making the software better, and it's then better for them as well. So yeah, that's a different example of how the open source could work. I mean, the Mozilla is driven by as well the community, I think, and they have their sponsors and stuff. Of course, there is a commercial part of the Mozilla group, but the development is being driven by the foundation or something like that. I'm not sure, but you know what the problem is with the Red Hat and stuff, like, because again, this is not the white, this is not the white and black, right? I mean, it's still between. But Red Hat is now on a different side, but by their decision, and they're like pointing to the companies. But the Red Hat did the same in the beginning, right? This is a company that took the open source and made a business out of it. Now the question is, what is the way of making this business? Because Red Hat probably did it different way. They took the open source, they offered the paid support. They were not like selling the open source software. They were selling the support and knowledge and everything like that, right? And I think even in these days, the Red Hat is saying that, yeah, by the signing the contract with us, you are getting at first stage. I mean, first point is getting the best support you can get around the clock, with the best engineers, blah blah blah, security is being blah blah blah, right? And I think probably the Oracle is not doing it. So I think I'm closely, I'm by, it depends on what article I'm reading, but at least last few days I'm on the Reddit side somehow. I don't know how this happened, but I am really. I think I understand them, right? I mean, there are companies, major companies, that they're just doing nothing, just, I don't know what's the correct word, but I mean, they're just not contributing at all, pretty much. I don't want to use stealing, but this is not steal. This is still business, but it's the business doing bad way, right? I would think like something like this. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Valentin. You said that it's a company and needs to make money. Do you think that before this decision they didn't make money? Or is it more that they want more money, right?
They always made money, right? And this was never the issue that they never made money. But the problem when you're a corporation is that you have shareholders, and because you have shareholders, you always need to make more money. And if the money sources are not enough and your growth is not enough, you have to cut where the problem is, or try to close some of the gates, right, in order to make more money. This is a typical approach, right? And this discussion of the CentOS, it was always a problem in Red Hat. It was always because they always had a fight internally with the legal team and sales, because they never agreed and liked that they have CentOS and they offer CentOS for free. And on the other side, you have the Red Hat, which you needed the subscription for and everything. Yeah. So, but so as I said, I still believe, even if you like it or not, companies need to make money, because if it's not making money, it's not feasible, it's not viable, right? This is one of the bigger problem which you have now with these startups and all these US companies, right?
You are right. I'm not saying that companies shouldn't make money, right? The difference here, I think, is that they were making money, right? Because I feel that they transitioned, as Dusan said. They were first they were selling support, right? And I feel that that somehow slowly started to move towards, okay, we are selling software, right? You can get Ansible Tower. You can get I forgot how their DevOps
Satellite,
uh, satellite whatever. There are multiple tools like
OpenShift.
that,
Yeah.
right? OpenShift, right? That's the one I was thinking about. You can have the free version, right? But the real good version, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that's not that
Yes.
that's not something that you will get for free and it's open source and you can
Yes.
install it on your home computer, right? So they are slowly moving towards the point that okay, we are selling software, right?
Yes.
And I I'm okay with it. I know it's their prerogative to do that, right? It makes sense. They are a company that they have a they essentially have by law, right? They need to they need to grow and pay money to the investors and stuff like that, right? So I understand
Yes.
that, but it still creaks me the
Yeah.
wrong way, right? Because they were the good guys and they are changing to the they are not one of us, right? They are the faceless company that needs to make money, even though, right? The idea, the ideology of the open source, I feel was damaged by this step. Do you agree there?
No.
No.
Not
I'm going
valid.
to tell you what the real problem is, in my opinion. Okay.
Okay.
The problem is the mixing of the open source projects because you have these huge companies which call themselves open source, right? Which they say we don't sell software, we sell support, right? And then they end up selling software also and support, of course. And the problem is that most of these huge projects are composed of thousands of libraries, which are open source, which are built
Yes.
by Vali or Joiner or Dushan or
Not me.
Joe, right? These small developers, this one guy man show or two or let's say 10 of them, and they don't have a company, they don't have a business or whatever. They build it because they like it or they needed it, and this gains huge popularity and it ends up used by all these huge companies. They don't give pretty much anything back. They end up incorporating this software in all their products or most of the ones which make money. And yeah, then they say, okay, this is our product, we sell it. And but wait, wasn't this using also this? Yeah, sure, but it's okay. It's under the right license is, I don't know, BSD license or GPL or AGPL or LGPL or whatever license, right? And it's okay. We're covered, right? It's totally fine. I think that's the problem because you because you give the impression to people that we are open source, we take all these products and we still have an open source product for you free to use. But now it's not like this because wait, maybe you can use it, but if you don't have a subscription, it's useless, right? It's useless. You can't really have it. And CentOS is like exactly like the same. And now they also had this scandal with Fedora and stuff, right? And also Facebook is another example. Google is so all of these huge companies because they pretty much in like swallow up all this open source work and they end up incorporating it into their own, they end up making a ton of money with their products and with their support and whatever, right? Using a lot of open source software which never gets anything back. Yeah, and this is why there was so much drama. If you guys can remember, like 1 month ago or 2 months, 3 months, from developers like some Node.js libraries. I'm going to make this not work because I can't live anymore and I don't have the money and I have kids and family and nobody's supporting me with anything and I can't just do it anymore. And like you also had the drama with NTP, right? Like you also had the drama with OpenSSL or with LibreSSL. So you find out, wait, there's only one guy behind like OpenSSL. Oh, I never know it, but we have been using it in our certification software for the last 100 years, and it worked. We made like billions of dollars, but yeah, we never knew that there was only one guy. Yeah, I think that's the real problem, right? So yeah, companies will always chase profit. This is normal, and most of the companies don't have any kind of let's say conscience and respect for the amount of money which they should make and the amount of profit which they should give back.
Yeah,
And this
capitalism.
is it.
Totally.
Yes. And this
But
is turning more and more.
yes, but Red Hat was one of the good guys in the past, right? It's for many years. It's no longer the feeling of the community. I feel right. Yeah, I call them for how many years? I call them real Hitler, right? So, since we were working in the right together, so it's changing, right? And
Yeah.
I think. What's interesting to me is right that they, as you said, they give back a lot of code to open source, right? But I wonder if this is a good step for the future because right now, right, the near term goal is quite clear. It's a good step towards getting more money, essentially, right? But in the long term, I feel that, for example, I know a lot of people, right, in that went to Red Hat because of that ideology, right? That they were good people, right? That went there because they were saying, okay, I believe in Red Hat, right? I think I believe in open source. And there are a lot of people like that there, right? And I probably guess they hate it when they were bought out by IBM, right? And I think
Yeah.
this is just another thing where I think they will lose some people over that, right? Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, yeah, maybe.
That's definitely possible. Uh,
I'm going to tell you something now,
yeah.
which probably will bring me some hate. But after healing,
Again,
so yeah, like always, right? I
Yeah,
always come up with
like
a
like
shitty
last
comment.
time since you were here, that all the listeners were like, "Oh my God,
Fuck this guy.
pitchforks, fire,
Yes,
everything."
yes. The problem is that I heard a lot of developers, open source developers, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. And to be honest, I believe open source, at least on the long run and medium long on, no, on the medium run and long run, it's a mistake. Okay, it's a mistake because people, most of
yes, you were
them,
right. There is a hate.
From Dushan right now.
like
Hate
most of them,
3000.
when they start using open source, so we're not talking about developing open source, we're talking about just consuming open source. They have like an inherent understanding or need or want that this stuff should be working forever, it should be supported forever, it should be free forever, and this kind of stuff, right? And I think open source, to be honest, even if you start an open source project, if you have in the back of your mind any kind of idea of making money with that stuff, it should never be open source. And I see time and time, like case by case, like a lot of open source projects start open source, but they always want to make money.
Yeah, yeah, go Junior. Then I will be.
I have I will pile up on you, Dushan. I'm sorry. I think this is correct, but I think that there is also a way for open source to stay open source and to still be good. And I think that the answer to that is not the GPL license. It's not the MIT license. It's the licenses that we essentially that the community hates, right? It's like, for example, Redis went through the license change where it could no longer be used in AWS, for example, or other cloud providers that they felt were not giving back, right? And that might be some way of keeping the software open source, keeping the companies happy that they can make money on that, right? and still having some sort of in the license, right? You can use it at home, right? If you want to use it in your
Exactly.
home projects where we don't get any money from you either way, right? Yeah, go ahead, use it, learn it. Then you can perhaps, when you like it, you can bring it into the company, and then that company can pay for it, right? Where it is making money. So
Yeah.
maybe there is some way there, right? To
Uh,
still, yeah.
I'm definitely on the same track here because I think it's not the question whether the code is open or not. I think it's the matter about the usage because imagine what's the opposite of not open source. I mean, it's a closed source. Then you're having the project, you have no idea what's going under the hood, right? And I I think it's just better to have it open. The problem is that there is a misusage of the open license, somehow license open source code, even in these days, right? I mean, this is a problem. John mentioned GPL, right? And we have a GPL. The GPL in the stages when it's relevant to us is telling us that yeah, any code which is used to develop another code which was licensed with the GPL has to be redistributed back and it has to be public, right? That's nothing bad on it, but it's not commercial license. It's not license that was actually meant to, okay, let's do business on it, right? This is purely developed educational license. To me, it sounds like educational, definitely, or something like that. And I'm totally that's something I'm totally fine with it. Like, okay, if you do use this code or product based on this code commercially, like give us 5 cents back. That's totally fine with it. I mean that's totally okay. I mean if there is a free water somewhere, just drink it. But if you're like pack it and selling that, no, just okay, give us something. It's totally okay with it, right? So I mean the open source, I mean it's not the problem with the source, whether the source is open or not. It's the problem of the misuses of licenses, and it's a problem that there is not balance in the market. There is no rules, which despite the fact that they are written, they're not being followed by everyone correctly, right? Even in this drama, right? There is this FOSS, which is a open source foundation, whatever, which take care of this. They think that they will sue the Red Hat, right? Why they are thinking that they should be immediately sue if they think that the GPL is being misused, or there is a problem with the GPL usage, right? So there are the companies that tries to follow the rules. There are the companies that trying to watch whether the whole environment is okay, but they're just not act like that. And this is my problem. So open source is fine. So I more agree here with the joiner than you, Ali, because I found the open source as the best possible. I mean, if I would be a ruler here in this world, any code would be open source. Any. It just makes that's just somehow makes the things better in how to educate, how to uh, audit the code, right? This is a major problem. Of course, we are not living in the best world, so there will be someone who will steal and try to, and that's the problem, right? So of course, this is a patch. That's something like a patch. Yeah, make the code closed sourced, right? And this will be more painful for someone to get the code. But yeah, it's the same that you will rob into the offices and get the code from the Git or whatever, right? Which is internal, right? It's something. There is a similarity, right? It's just breaking the rules somehow. Uh, yeah. So that's it. Yeah. I was just thinking, I mean, whether I would be very curious. That's why I ask you, Wally, about it, right? What's the opinion of the major companies, right, which are using what will be their uh, next step in this area?
So of course, I don't know, let's say, what kind of, let's say, opinions are at the management level, because that's the level which actually decides, right?
Yeah,
What kind of So of course they get the feedback and information from the lower levels, like of course the technical experts and all this. But at
Architects
the
probably.
yeah, but at the end, in the end, like they decide, okay, we go to this, to this, to this, or to this. To
Yeah.
be honest, I believe to get rid of some of this drama and a lot of confusion, and to also change a bit the way people are using software in general, and to have the expectations clear and the rules also being able to be enforced somehow, right? To be able to enforce some sort of rules of guidelines. I believe actually the software could be closed source, and then you could give the open source, the code actually, to the people which really need it in order to audit, security audit, uh, perform what kind of testing on it, and that's totally fine. Yeah, you could have NDAs, you could have some sort of agreements in place, and it's totally fine. But
But then you
to
don't know if the
yeah,
code you're auditing is the same code which is running
true.
in your CPU, right?
But let me give you the shocker now.
Yeah.
Most of the users don't care. They don't care what kind of software they have behind. So they don't care what is it open source, not open source. They don't care. If they can get it, they can use it, they can run it. They don't care.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they do care. Second, after there is a problem with the code, you remember OpenSSL, right? Anybody was using OpenSSL, and
Yeah.
20 years, for 20 years, it was like, yeah, this is a standard, there is nothing wrong with it. And then there was a problem, and each company, like
Yeah.
everybody was like, man, what are we gonna do? We're compromised, right? So there was an audit, there was a blah blah blah, and this Debian got these reproducible builds. That is so cool. I mean, they get it. What is it, right? I mean, they have a code, but they have packages, and then they are like reproduce the build from the code, and they're matching whether the repo package is the same and which is reproducible build, right? And even they realized in the beginning it was a slow percentage, like low digits. They were of course increasing towards through the time. So now they're like, I don't know where, quite high, nearly 100%. But they were thinking, yeah, if we want to be like trusted, we need to build this like trust source, and this is part of it is the reproducible build. But yeah, I mean, that's maybe possible too, like keep the source code until keep the code closed until it is required to open it
Yeah.
by law or whatever, right? But in the
So most of the
sure.
users they will not care. This is my honest
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
And for the companies, it would actually be easier and better to not have not have the open source code, because so from the point of view of like they don't go to some websites to GitHub whatever and they pull some software and that's it. No, I can with 90%, let's say, confidence tell you that they would prefer to have a contract behind it, to
yeah,
work with some company to pay them some money, to know what they pay for, instead of having some open source product and yeah, they're not sure, well, is it going to be okay, is it going to, like, this dependency hell and this library hell and this open source hell at some point where you end up you're not sure what kind of licenses are breached, because you're not sure if you really check them, all of them, if they're still the same license, if they okay, so it's tricky, to be honest.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure at least for companies they would prefer like 90% of the time to work with companies behind it, to have the let's say the support behind it, or at least have an agreement that okay, they paid for this is, they are able to use it, and so on and so on.
You are saying that, right? But they have option of doing that. They can use Windows servers. They can use everything closed source, right? But they don't want to do that. They want to run Red Hat. They want to run Kubernetes. They want to run the open source software. That's being made for the servers, right? And essentially, so I know, for example, for that yeah, Of course, right? If you each time you go to GitHub and you add another library, right? You hate it. You are like, okay, who is doing this library? How many people are taking care of it? When will it die? How will I move to something different, right? This is all really complicated, but the option is not there that, okay, I will go to a third party company, right? Pay them some money so they sell me some product or make a product for me, because a lot of open source, like what can I use if it's not OpenSSL? Which company can I pay to get the feature set that I could get with OpenSSL, right? Which company can I pay to get feature set of Kubernetes, right? You can't, right? You're
You
at least
can't
not right
because
now, right?
you can't right now, let's say, or not easily, because it was, let's say, developed this way. Okay, the
Yeah.
market went this way.
Yes.
There was some sort of, let's say, trend at some point in time where they say, okay, open source is the way because this is what the people want or whatever. But I believe now, I guess more and more companies and people are realizing that this is maybe not the way to go. And I see also a large number of projects closing up the open source stuff and switching from the open source, and also people regretting, so like developers, right? Regretting that they did this stuff open source. They should charge, like Dushan said, like 1 cent or 5 cents, right, for it, and they would be okay. But it's really hard to switch from an open source and free product to something getting paid.
Open source doesn't mean it's free.
It's
Easier than
yeah.
that.
So I said open source and free.
Okay.
Okay. So it's really hard to switch from an open source and free product to open source and paid product. Okay, it's almost impossible. So you either create version 2, whatever, and then you say, okay, guys, this is paid from this version 2. You have to pay or game over. Okay, you can't use it.
Because that's what they want, right? They want to suck you into the free product, right? And they want
Yeah.
to switch.
Yes.
And you can't have it both ways. You can have it like, okay, get this is open source, this is free, and we get a lot of exposure through that. Everyone is using it because it is free and it is open source, right? Those two things, you already got the exposure from that. You already got a million users from that, and you can after that just say, okay, now it's paid and now it's closed source, right? Even if you, for example, you start developing version 2, no, they are going to fork you. They will continue with the open source product, right? But my argument here stands that if you would have started with a closed source product with which is not free, you wouldn't get the traction that you would get from open source, right? And you cannot have it both ways, and that's partly the problem of open source, right?
True. Then maybe start with, I believe this is another problem, let's say, and another shocker. Maybe start doing products which people really need or care, and not just some bullshit applications or some bullshit projects which are somehow fairy tales and you get a lot of money from venture capital and always have a loss at the end of the year and you never make money, like Twitter, right? So, so start with the
That's a good one.
product, start with the tool which is actually needed, which is solving a problem, right? And if it's really going to solve a problem, then you will have a market niche and you will have profit coming at the end of the year, at second or third. If you don't have profit at the end of the year, second or third, then close the company or close the project and start something else. Instead of doing all these bullshit projects and unicorn startups, $1 billion, like with these huge evaluations, and in the end they're useless. Most of them are useless. Okay, nobody really needs Twitter. Nobody really needs I don't know, Instagram. Those are just like drugs or some candy to some extent, right? They create some addiction. They
Yeah, I
create
mean
some.
this is about the definition of the word need, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
it's
but as
just
I
the
said,
ice hockey. I mean, this is just the ice hockey, right? I mean,
yes.
nobody really needs the ice hockey, but yeah, still,
So
300 million people you watch it and play it, whatever, right?
But
Yeah, but
this who can release like you say, catching them with the open source and free product. This is quite common. I think it's all over the place, but I don't believe this is the right way to go. Yeah, this is just my feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
there are also some things that, for example, have a large value if they are open source. For example, let's talk about Bitwarden, right? It's open source. It's one of the things that when I look at password manager, right, I'm way less moved to choose something that's not open source, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, security specialist. I mean, by grouping right to the security, you think about okay, open source did means yeah, it might be audited better. It might be like going public with the code might be still get some benefit, especially in security.
and I'm not locked in, right? Because
Yeah.
that at the end, right? If I, for example, I trusted LastPass, right? I never used that, right? But I didn't have the feeling. Okay, they were shitty. They had shitty security, right? And didn't rotate the keys and stuff like that, right? That's not why I didn't choose them, right? I didn't choose them because they were not open source, and I didn't choose them because okay, now you can export your passwords from LastPass and import them to a third party tool, right? To something completely different, right? But will it stay like that? Or will they
Yeah.
will they be like, okay, so in this one version it will quietly break, and this new version they will change the format and this and this and this, and then I will end up in a position where I want to change the password manager because they got too expensive. I don't like the application, whatever, and I cannot, right? And I
Yeah.
feel that with Bitwarden, essentially, especially since they have multiple working implementations, right? This won't happen. And the same thing is, for example, with Obsidian, right? I'm not using it because it's open source, because it's not. It's closed source, right? But the data that I have there is open. I can leave any day, right? I'm not being locked in, and that's also a part in open source that's valuable, right? And that,
Yeah.
for
Yeah. I mean,
example,
there
could
is a
stay there, and you could change the license, the licensing terms, and you would still get that benefit from open source, that you are not that locked in.
that's funny. Funny actually. I'm by listening to you. I'm thinking myself whether I have ever heard about like something like okay, is this product or solution open source? You know, when there is a meeting or architects or whatever, you're thinking about okay, what we have a problem and we need to find a solution. A solution would be a software or product.
Yes, yes.
And I'm thinking I never heard about it. Is this open source? Make it sense? No. Like Vali said, like no. I can we have
You are
because
right. That's not in the discussion. Yeah, I haven't
no,
heard it
no,
either. Yeah.
never. Never. I mean
But there
so
is discussion about lock-in, right? At least in,
about
in,
what?
in our company, there is a lot of discussion about lock-in.
Yeah. I mean, this is the hidden agenda, right? Pretty much. I mean, this is like the open source. Yes, no, might be a part of it, right? How easy would be to shift over to something like that? I mean, is this the API? Is this open because there is a lot of product with which API is hidden or not fully exposed, for example, right? So I'm wondering, right? Like yes, open source might be definitely an advantage on some areas, right? I don't think it's a disadvantage at all. For company,
Maybe,
yes. For companies, yes. I mean, because they're losing something if there's someone steal from them. But I mean, this is not the problem. They have open source. The problem is that some different company doing nasty stuff outside. I was like,
I actually believe
speak.
it's a disadvantage for the people, yeah, especially for the people. That's the problem. Because as a company, maybe you can survive, right? If they
Mm,
steal some part of the code, you can sue them maybe, or you can, let's say, afford to somehow recover from that. But
mhm.
as a one-man show, you really don't have a chance. If they
Yeah,
steal
yeah,
your code and use it in 1 million products and they make a ton of money, you will never be able to sue them, right? You can't do anything. 99% of the people don't sue these companies because they know they don't have the money for it and they
Yeah,
don't have the chance.
they will just
And
lose
even
you.
if you sue them, they have such an army of lawyers, they will keep you forever in court and you will never get anything from it, right?
This
So
this 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 is like a good script for a movie, actually.
could be, yeah, could be.
Yeah, yeah. The single developer sues the, like, put whatever big company
Oracle.
there.
Let's say the company that has the most lawyers, right? Let's say Oracle.
Yes.
It's just pretty much lawyers and two maintainers.
Two developers, right? And a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
other.
yeah.
And
Okay,
1,000
guys.
lawyers.
Well, I
Yeah.
would like to open another topic, which is super fresh. This will be something new for our podcast because
Okay.
we're like pretty much the last who informs about something that goes on in IT. But this time, maybe we will be the in the early stage of the, like. Have you heard about threats by Meta?
Yes. I
Yes,
You
heard
yes.
see,
about this Twitter
yeah.
clone. Yes.
So because you've
You
mentioned
already
that,
have it
yeah,
installed, right? Because I think it comes out today or tomorrow. I'm not sure.
I'm not
I
sure,
don't
but
even
I
have
think
Twitter.
okay. What's threats, right, for listeners? Okay, the Meta company, the company that the child.
Facebook.
Ah,
It's
sorry, not
Facebook.
yeah,
They might
Facebook.
change the name, but their practice and what they do stays the same, right? It's still
Yeah, yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
They are
It's
still
the Facebook and Instagram and all of this, right? And they have announced, actually, their CEO, the Mark, yeah, with the sugar stuff.
the
So
mark.
the Mark announced that they are going to launch the Threads application, which is the Twitter killer. So 500 characters long messages with the 5 minutes long videos is, I think, is right now the limits for the single post. And what is the best, I think, is that you can log in there with the Instagram account. So pretty much all of the Instagram users are there. You
Yeah.
don't need to create anything, right? I mean, this is like what Google did years ago with YouTube
Yeah. Yeah.
and Google Plus and everything. Like, so the Google Plus, the active users, like, there were three. One of
Yes.
them, I was one of them. But
Yeah.
on a paper, there was like 2 billion users using the Google Plus, because each Google account, so Gmail pretty much account, was also the Google Plus subscriber or user or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think this might be actually the Twitter killer.
To
Mm.
so to be honest, Google is the worst company when it comes to keep projects alive.
Yeah, yeah,
They
that's a different
they
topic,
kill
but you're totally right. You're
like
totally right.
like YouTube and Gmail are the no YouTube, Google, and Gmail are the only ones which somehow survived over all these
From
years.
300, from
Yes.
300 products last 3 years, just three, these three.
So I'm not even using Gmail anymore. So the only Google product which I use is
YouTube.
YouTube and maybe yeah and Google, yeah. So to search something.
Search engine, yeah.
But other than this, I moved and I wouldn't use any Google product, to be honest, because I would be afraid of of having it killed like in 1 year or 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
That's a good idea. Uh, just let me put one more information about the Threads app. It's not gonna be available, I think, in Europe for a while at least, because the Meta, the Facebook, isn't really sure. They're not really sure about how to do what to do with the GDPR and all the personal stuff. So they just said, yeah, we don't run it in Europe for now.
That's a good choice because I think European Union would go after them because
Yes.
I think they have a very bad name in European Union. That's one part.
For a reason. For a reason, let's
Yeah.
say.
Then the second point is that it wouldn't be the first litigation against Meta or Facebook from European Union.
Yeah.
So it's a known entity, and I strongly feel that they try to use their dominant position on the market that they have
Yeah.
with Instagram to go into a slightly different market to the short form with threads, and basically edge out a small company of only a few developers, Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So
But Twitter got like 380 millions users or something like that, which I think will
maybe
be a
it's
peanut for the threads in a year, in my opinion.
in Instagram is much larger than Twitter.
Yeah,
Twitter
yeah,
is gets a lot of news because of that, because a lot of people in news are on Twitter, right? And a lot of
yeah.
important and celebrities and stuff like that. But yeah, I've heard that the threads, at least on Joinit Discord, there was some information that threads will be on ActivityPub. Is that at all true? It doesn't sound true.
No idea, man.
I doubt
But
that.
it
Okay.
was it was on our Discord, so it's pretty
So,
much
so,
114% true.
so no, but we were talking about that even if it would be ActivityPub, it would certainly be all locked off, right? Just as Truth Social and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be the part of the ActivityPub network. It would
Yeah.
be in its own separate corner. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. With a special condition you have to fulfill in order to get like 2 API calls.
Yeah. Valentin, but you said something interesting. You don't use Google products, so you are like me, only with a little bit more hair, right? Uh, I'm still using Gmail. I find it incredibly difficult to leave because I have 1,000 accounts and stuff like that. I try to have them forwarded, for example, to my own. Um, to my own DNS, right? But I'm still on Gmail. The mail still goes through them. Will I be able to move completely?
Yes.
That's
So
awesome.
I also had like 10 domains used
Hmm.
on the Gmail one. So I had
Hmm.
the business account. So I was paying per user per license. So I had like 2 users or 3 users, and yeah, it's not making sense. Okay, Outlook, so Office, yeah, is much more flexible when it comes to the licensing. It's you have access to much more products when you want to use it. You can use much more services, and they're much more easier to use than Google. Google is such a shitty implementation when it comes to using the accounts. You can't even use the business account for YouTube. So I had to create a like a personal account just to use YouTube when I already had the Google account, which is of course for business, right? Which is not making sense because wait, you let me use the business account for pretty much everything else, but you're not going to let me use it for YouTube, okay? And you're going to force me to create another account and just switch profiles all day long in the browser and in the phone, and no, just no, okay? It's just stupid, it's not making sense, and it's just crappy. Yeah.
But you had your own DNS, right? So it wasn't so difficult to move. And where did you move?
I
To
moved
be
to Office, to Microsoft.
okay.
That's the best which you can have for now, in my opinion. The let's say you can even have the license much cheaper than on Google. And yeah, to be honest, I realized that having too many emails, it's also not making sense. Okay, so I had some emails which were used in some systems or some accounts in the past, and I can't delete them, let's say, but I created just as as an alias, and they were of course also working, yeah, but they were not the primary email. Okay, so the primary email was always used as the real account, and that's it, yeah. So this is how I ended up transitioning and moving. It took some time to migrate, but Microsoft uses you have a tool in there and you can just connect the account and that's it. So it will transfer. the emails for you, which is nice. But of course, Google will screw with you when you want to export the data, all the data which you have in your Google account, like the bookmarks, like the photos. The photos are a pain in the ass. Yeah, those are the worst because you have these Google Photos, and if you used it for backup, right, like on the phone, oh, you're going to hate
I
yourself.
dodged that bullet. Yeah.
That's perfect because that's the most painful part there. Yeah, because Google makes it a pain because they want you to stay on their platform and they don't want you to leave. Yeah, that's it.
But
But
if they would be open source, they could be an export tool.
no, because open source, like Dushan said, it's also so. Of course, you can have open source the right way done, and you can have open source the shitty way done, right? So you can have it open source, but really not an portable data format or not a portable way of moving to something else. Yeah? So they could really screw with you in 1,000 ways. And people are not always creating, let's say, migration tools or whatever for every piece of service or tool, right? They really have to have a need or want to do it, right? And yeah, if the company will screw with you with a shitty format or whatever, or not an API, even if it's open source, then you're going to be pretty much in a bad spot. Yeah.
Well,
So
let me
yeah,
tell you about the Google Takeout.
yeah, I did it. Yeah, so I did
Doesn't
it.
work for you?
In my case, I had photos, like 200 gigs of photos. They limit
Still?
they split the number of files. The maximum file size was like 10 gig or something like this. Yeah, the session expires if you start one download, you can start the maximum of two. Yeah, and
Okay.
depending of this, it will take forever. Yeah, so don't. So I did it. I had a lot of hours spent in order to move, but I did it, and I will never go back to Google. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So yeah. Um,
once we can make a we can make a solid episode of our podcast, just fighting about it, right? Because I'm the Google user for sure, and I would like strongly disagree with your Microsoft statements, at least at some parts. But
And I'm an
that
Apple user, right? I have photos on iCloud, so yeah, it's gonna be
it's
I
amazing.
gonna
also
be
have the
crazy.
same. So I have the photos on the iCloud, and I also have them on the OneDrive. So now they are in two locations to some extent.
Okay. But I
Yeah.
think let's wrap it up for today because
Yes.
Wally got to leave. Thank you very much, Wally, for today's appearance. It was so cool to
It
got you
was
back
nice.
again. Again, it seems that it will be soon. You will be soon with us. So thank you, Wally. Thank you, Joiner, as well. I'm drunk as or Dushan or whatever you think I might be. You can find us or join it both those online. Johnny.online and on our Discord pre ľudí, ktorí nás počúvajú aj v jazyku, ktorý nebol týmto dominantný, tak toto bola anglická časť s našim kamošom Valentínom. Bol tu Joiner, ja som Dušan alebo Drankes. Na Discorde nás nájdete všetkých pokope. Čaute. See you then,
Ciao.
Vali. Thank you.
See you guys. Bye
Bye.
bye. It
Bye.
was nice talking with you. Bye bye.